This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. Imagine stepping into the ancient lanes of Kathmandu, where history just seems to whisper from every intricately carved doorway and grand temple. It's like the very soul of a nation, etched not just in stone, but in wood, metal, vibrant thread. Now think about this. This living, breathing heritage faces some really serious 21st century threats, and yet it's not fading away. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack complex topics and try to extract the most vital insights for you. Today, we're taking a really fascinating journey into Nepal's rich handicraft heritage, exploring how it's undergoing this kind of profound transformation.
Exactly. We've got a compelling set of sources here looking at how Nepali designers and entrepreneurs are, well, they're not just preserving traditional products, they're actively revitalizing them for the global market. And they're doing this through a pretty smart blend of modern tech, savvy marketing, and a deep understanding of what consumers actually value today.
Right, so our mission for this deep dive is first to kind of unravel the systemic challenges, the things that have left these incredible crafts vulnerable. Then, and this is where it gets really compelling, I think, we'll highlight the innovative solutions, the ways they're not just overcoming these hurdles, but actually paving the way for a truly sustainable future. It really is a story of, ancient techniques meeting modern ingenuity.
And what's particularly insightful here, I feel, is how the soul of Nepal is finding this fresh expression. It's ensuring its survival, yeah, but also its relevance in a whole new era. So let's unpack this. Let's see how a nation's heritage is being reborn, not just surviving, but thriving.
Okay, so let's begin by understanding those foundational challenges. The things that have made Nepali artisans so vulnerable. It's not just one single obstacle, is it? It's more like an interconnected system that's often trapped them. What's the biggest external pressure they're up against?
That's a crucial starting point. Yeah. One of the most overwhelming threats is sheer market and economic pressure. I mean, handcrafted products. By their very nature, they demand significant time, skill, and often, quality, ethically sourced materials. They simply cannot compete on price alone with just the flood of cheap, mass-produced goods hitting local markets and, of course, the global scene. It's a race to the bottom, really, that traditional crafts just can't win by slashing prices.
And when you add the traditional supply chains into that picture, it seems like it just makes the problem worse, doesn't it? Artisans, especially those in more rural spots, they often find themselves completely cut off from the end customer.
Precisely. They end up relying heavily on intermediaries, middlemen, who unfortunately often exploit that position. These middlemen buy at rock-bottom prices, leading to severe underpricing for the artisans themselves. And crucially, they provide almost no real market feedback. Artisans might depend on local fairs, melas they call them in Nepal, but these seasonal events just aren't enough for a stable year-round income. It leaves them in this constant state of, well, precarity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so beyond those external pressures, what about challenges bubbling up from inside the artisan communities? Are younger people still keen to learn these skills?
That's an excellent question, and it points to a pretty significant internal crisis. Our sources highlight something called an artisan crunch. Basically, the younger generation is, well, increasingly disinterested in traditional crafts. They often see them as just really labor-intensive, maybe lower social status, and definitely less profitable than other jobs, or even the idea of working abroad. This lack of interest directly threatens the transmission of these unique centuries-old skills passed down through generations.
So it's not just a lack of interest, but also maybe a lack of resources holding back growth. It sounds like they face big financial hurdles too.
Absolutely. Artisans often lack the upfront cash needed for quality raw materials, or maybe to invest in modern tools that could boost efficiency or product quality. And it's a bit of a catch-22. The formal financial sector, banks, they're often reluctant to give loans to craft businesses. They see them as high risk. This lack of access to finance is a major bottleneck. It directly hinders innovation and their ability to scale up.
Okay, so when we connect all these dots, the market pressure, the intermediaries, the artisan crunch, the lack of finance, what are the bigger structural weaknesses making things even harder?
Well, if we zoom out to the macro level, you see structural weaknesses like, say, poor infrastructure in rural areas. Think tricky roads, unreliable transport, and unstable electricity grids. These things significantly increase production costs and lead to delays, which, directly reduces competitiveness in a global market that demands consistency and speed. Plus, government support often seems to lean more towards regulation rather than really proactive promotion. There's a noticeable lack of strategic help with technical assistance, hands-on training, or effective market development plans.
It really sounds like a vicious cycle of devaluation then. Market pressure drives down prices, income becomes unstable, which pushes young people away, which then just perpetuates the economic instability for those who remain. It feels like the survival of these crafts really hinges on fundamentally changing the value proposition for the artisans, making it a truly decent, stable, maybe even an aspirational way to make a living. Now, here's where the story takes a truly inspiring turn, I think, how innovators are directly tackling these really daunting issues. Let's start by looking at Nepal's vibrant textile sector. Our sources show two distinct but sort of complementary strategies emerging: individual design leadership and collective industry branding.
Yeah, what's really fascinating here is the story of Mukta Shrestha. She's the founder of Moku Boutique. Her innovation is all about reimagining traditional Dhaka fabric. That's a hand-loomed textile, known for its rich, intricate geometric patterns, often in really vibrant colors. It's deeply part of Nepali culture. She's boldly combining it with contemporary silhouettes, modern shapes, and other materials like silk or georgette. So it's not just preserving it, it's making a traditional material feel totally relevant, vibrantly relevant for a modern global audience.
And she's also built a direct supply chain, right?
Mm,
Completely cutting out those exploitative intermediaries we talked about earlier. She works directly with her team of weavers, a group that's grown, I read, from 3 to 12.
that's right.
And what's more, she even develops unique Dhaka patterns just for her brand. That protects it from being copied, secures its identity. Muku's become this premium brand, hasn't it? Resonating with both the Nepali diaspora people, maybe looking to celebrate their roots with a modern twist, and international customers, largely thanks to a strong online presence.
Absolutely. The core insight for Muku's success seems to be all about authorship and exclusivity, creating something unique and controlling its story.
Okay, so that's the individual approach. What about the collective one?
Right. On the flip side, you see this really powerful example of collective action in the Nepalese Pashmina market. This industry faced a massive crisis, just a flood of low-quality fakes, often sold as pashmina but made from, cheap acrylic or whatever. This absolutely hammered consumer confidence, export revenues plummeted, the entire industry's reputation was on the line.
So what was the answer?
The answer was a collective trademark, Chiangra Pashmina. It was a joint effort between the Nepal Pashmina Producers Association, NPIA, and the government.
And this trademark isn't just a label, is it? It sounds like it's a serious guarantee of quality and authenticity.
Oh, incredibly strict standards. To qualify, the fiber has to come specifically from the Himalayan Chiangra goats. It needs to meet precise quality benchmarks, like a fineness of less than 17 microns, which is incredibly fine, making it exceptionally soft. And the production process has to be eco-friendly and, really importantly, no child labor. Each certified label even has a unique hologram and a QR code for real-time verification. Anyone can check it.
Wow, that's thorough.
It had to be. This collective branding strategy has been absolutely instrumental in restoring international trust. It allows the honest producers to clearly stand out from the fakes and, more importantly, to sell their genuine products at a premium price. You see online stores like Pashminas Nepal and RNS Pashmina proudly displaying this mark. It signals unquestionable quality to their global customers.
So this model is fundamentally about origin and authenticity then, proving where it comes from and what it's made of.
Exactly.
So what's the big takeaway here for other traditional industries maybe facing similar issues? It seems like there's no single magic bullet.
Definitely not. But the key lesson, I think, is that both individual authorship, like Muku's vision, and collective trust building, like Chiangra Pashmina, are really powerful ways to fight against becoming just another cheap commodity. In a global market flooded with low-cost goods, differentiating through storytelling and trust isn't just, a nice marketing extra. It's a fundamental survival strategy. It's how you command a premium.
Right. And the choice between those paths, individual versus collective, probably depends on the specific market challenge, right? Like individual for a unique niche vision, collective when a whole industry's reputation needs rescuing.
Precisely. It's about diagnosing the core problem accurately.
Okay, so having explored textiles, it's compelling to see similar ideas and maybe some unique twists popping up in Nepal's ceramics sector too. Here, the sources show this clear evolution from very traditional local production towards these globally sought-after design objects.
Yeah, the traditional heart of pottery in Nepal beats really strongly in places like Bhaktapur and Pimi. For centuries, the Prajapati caste has meticulously crafted functional earthenware there. It's genuinely like a living open-air museum. You see pottery drying in the sun in public squares. It's deeply integrated into daily life.
But then modernization started to happen. Tell us about Thimi ceramics.
All right, they were founded back in 1985. And their key innovation was a pretty bold shift. They moved away from traditional low-fired terracotta, which can be quite brittle, towards glazed ceramics fired at incredibly high temperatures, 1200 degrees Celsius.
Oh, that's hot.
It is. And that technological leap made their products much more impact resistant, lighter weight, and crucially dishwasher and microwave safe. Qualities that are pretty much essential for modern consumers everywhere.
And the design aspect.
Well, their clean, minimalist design, which was notably praised by their Danish partner, Craft Sisters, really resonated with an international audience, especially people who appreciate that sort of Scandinavian aesthetic. Today, they produce this wide range of contemporary tableware, successfully blending centuries-old craftsmanship with a totally modern style.
Okay, so that's phase one, adapting the product.
Yeah.
And then comes the next leap, doesn't it? Digitalization.
Exactly. Platforms like Kathmandu Handmade and Nepal emerged. They act as, like, digital curators. They essentially provide a single, professionally managed online storefront for multiple artisans bundling their work together.
Which must be a huge help dealing with all the complexities of e-commerce.
Oh, absolutely. They handle the e-commerce tech, the sophisticated digital marketing, the tricky international shipping, all skills that many individual artisans just don't have the time or resources for. And their marketing strategy is really cleverly built on values that resonate globally. Handmade from Nepal, modern design, sustainability, and, significantly, support for women artisans. And Nepal even goes a step further. They introduce customers directly to the artisans making the products, people like Anil and Rajaram Prajapati.
Yeah.
It fosters this really personal connection between the maker and the buyer.
That personalization is powerful. And there's even a third phase emerging now, something about experiences.
Yeah, it's fascinating, tapping into what's sometimes called the experience economy. Studios in Bhaktapur are now offering hands-on pottery workshops and even things like therapeutic seminars for tourists and locals, maybe looking for a creative outlet or stress relief.
That makes sense. It diversifies income for the potters, doesn't it? And introduces the craft to potentially a whole new generation.
Exactly. It sparks interest, ensures the skills continue. And this whole development, from Themi ceramics to the digital platforms to the workshops, it highlights a really crucial shift in the role of intermediaries. Unlike those traditional, often exploitative middlemen just focused on buying low and selling high, these new digital platforms add immense value. They provide marketing know-how, handle global logistics, and, maybe most importantly, they tell the artisan's story. They weave it right into the product's value.
So they've gone from being exploiters to more like partner assistants.
That's a great way to put it. Partner assistance. They equip artisans with specialized skills and a global reach they just wouldn't have otherwise.
So the clear takeaway here for any traditional industry seems to be this kind of multi-phase modernization strategy. First, adapt the product itself for modern needs.
Right.
Second, leverage digital channels for global reach and storytelling. And third, maybe explore experiential offerings to deepen that connection and diversify income streams.
Spot on. It's a layered approach.
Okay, now let's pivot to the jewelry and metalworking sector. Here, it feels like the most powerful innovation isn't necessarily a physical product or a new tech, but something less tangible, using ethical storytelling and social impact as the absolute core of the business strategy.
Yeah, and this raises a really important question. How exactly do you sell values, not just products? Look at Lotus Sky. They're a 100% women-run social enterprise, and they just masterfully demonstrate this. Their new fair labor model provides what they call accumulative wages, which means beyond their stable, fair earnings, a dedicated portion of their income is set aside into a fund for their long-term security.
Wow.
Yeah, it empowers artisans to save and invest in their future, maybe their kids' education, for example. It directly helps break that cycle of poverty.
And their tagline, created by women for women, that's not just marketing fluff, is it?
Not at all. It's their central message, and it resonates deeply with conscious consumers. And by selling directly to consumers online, they cut out the intermediaries entirely, ensuring the vast majority of the price paid goes straight to the artisans themselves, maximizing their impact.
That direct model seems crucial across the board. What about preserving skills?
Well, then you have brands like Kalagar and Amo. Both are really dedicated to preserving traditional Nepalese metalworking skills and historical motifs. Their innovation lies more in rethinking the context. They take these ancient techniques, like filigree, that incredibly delicate, ornate work with fine wires of gold or silver, and they integrate them into elegant, often minimalist, modern jewelry designs.
So it makes heritage wearable desirable for today's market.
Exactly. It's not just preserved in a museum, it's alive and relevant.
And both of these brands are built on a strong ethical foundation too, right? Working closely with artisans, providing stable income.
Absolutely. They work with independent or home-based artisans, ensuring stable income and actively preserving unique skills that might otherwise be lost. Caligar is even recognized as a fair trade supplier by BAFTS, the British Association. That underscores their commitment.
And there was another interesting example of market adaptations, singing bowls.
Oh yeah, that's a striking one. The success of traditional singing bowls in the international wellness market. Online retailers aren't just selling them as, musical instruments. They're marketing them specifically as tools for sound therapy and stress relief. They often offer sets with specific notes tuned for meditation or chakra balancing. It shows this really keen understanding of the language and the emotional needs of a completely new target audience.
So they're effectively repositioning a traditional craft for a booming global trend wellness.
Precisely. It's smart adaptation.
So what's the really profound takeaway from all these jewelry and metalwork examples? It feels like it goes beyond just the product.
It really does. These brands aren't just selling stuff. They're selling participation in a bigger story. When you buy a Lotus Sky bracelet, you feel like you're part of a women's empowerment narrative. When you purchase a Caligar piece, you're contributing directly to preserving cultural heritage.
Right. The product becomes a symbol of the buyer's own identity and values.
Exactly. And that intangible value is their greatest defense against mass production. It's why people are willing to pay a premium, and it builds incredible brand loyalty.
That makes perfect sense.
You
Which
could
kind of
just-
brings us to what the sources identify as maybe the most holistic solution to all these systemic problems we started with, the social entrepreneurship model.
Yeah, exactly. And just to be clear, this isn't charity we're talking about. It's a business model that intentionally places social impact right up there on the same level as profit. In fact, many of the brands we've already talked about, like Lotus Sky, are perfect examples of this approach in action.
And beyond Lotus Sky, there are other really bright examples too, right? Like local women's handicraft.
Right. Founded by a former victim of forced labor, specifically to empower women through craft.
And Lily's Leaves, which trains and employs deaf and low-income women, giving them invaluable skills and, importantly, dignity.
And this model, you see, it directly confronts and addresses those systemic challenges we outlined right at the start of our deep dive. Instead of those exploitative low wages, artisans get fair, stable, even those cumulative salaries we mentioned, allowing for real long-term financial security. Instead of opaque, exploitative middlemen, you have direct, transparent supply chains that build trust between everyone involved.
And instead of that crippling shortage of skilled people, the artisan crunch, these enterprises actively invest in training and preserving traditional skills, ensuring they don't die out.
Exactly. And instead of operating without any recognized identity, you see powerful brands emerging, built on these compelling ethical stories.
Crucially, this model also directly addresses the historical lack of rights and opportunities for women who, let's remember, make up a staggering 80% of Nepal's artisans. It's huge.
It is huge. And this social entrepreneurship model aligns just perfectly with the growing global demand for sustainable, eco-friendly, ethically produced goods. Conscious consumers are actively seeking transparency and authenticity. Social enterprises provide exactly that. They turn their social mission into a powerful market advantage.
So it's really a fundamental shift in perspective, isn't it? Craft becomes not just an economic activity, but a powerful tool for targeted social development. The actual product, the bracelet, the pot, the bag, it's almost a tangible outcome of this larger process of social change and empowerment.
That's a great way to frame it. For these entrepreneurs, the craft is the means, but empowerment and sustainable development are genuinely the ends.
So there you have it. Nepal's incredibly rich craft heritage isn't just surviving somehow, it's being actively reinvented, re-energized. The threats are undeniably real, we've seen that. But the response from this new generation of innovative entrepreneurs is powerful, it's creative, and it's remarkably multifaceted.
Yeah, through contemporary design, through collective branding, smart tech adoption, digital platforms, and just the undeniable power of ethical storytelling, they are forging a new, sustainable path forward. This fusion of tradition and innovation is ensuring that artisans don't just survive, but actually thrive, that their invaluable skills are cherished, and that Nepal's rich cultural soul can be shared authentically with the world for, hopefully, generations to come.
The revival isn't just some hopeful vision for the future, it's actually happening right now. It's transforming lives and livelihoods as we speak. And maybe for you, the listener, something to think about. What other traditional industries, perhaps in your own region facing similar sorts of challenges, could learn from Nepal's innovative blend of heritage, technology, and social impact? How can we all, maybe, contribute to valuing purpose and story just as much as, or maybe even more than, just the product itself?
That's definitely a deep dive for another day.
Thanks for joining us.